If you've created AI films before, you already know the pain. You build characters, define a world, create a visual style, and by the next scene, the AI acts like it has never seen your project before. Every shot becomes a new conversation, and suddenly you're managing AI instead of directing a film. But Invideo Agent One is trying to change that. It's the first AI agent that went to film school. Instead of just generating clips, it actually understands your project context. It remembers your characters, understands your visual language, handles edits across multiple scenes, and even makes creative suggestions while you direct. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I used it to create an AI film from start to finish. And I'll show you the moments that genuinely surprised me along the way. So let's start from the beginning. The first step to creating your film with Agent One is to open Agent One in your browser. Once you're inside, you see a text box, and this is where you simply tell it what you want to create. You don't need a complete production pipeline ready at this stage. You just need a basic idea. In my case, I'll say I want to create a short AI rom-com film where two people are trying to say hello, while both of them are being coached by an AI that keeps giving the same advice until they finally understand the hint at exactly the same moment. That's the core idea. Then I'll also let it know that I'll provide the documents later. Basically, what I'm doing here is giving it direction. You're already beginning to direct the AI from the very first interaction. After that, I can click send. Now that the idea is ready, we can move on and create a new project. I'll create a project and give it a name. Here, I'll just call this one Read Receipts. Once that's done, I'll create the project, and that becomes our starting point. Now the agent will ask you two things. It will ask, who am I and what should I know about you? The interesting thing here is that you're not interacting with it like a normal prompt box. You're communicating with it more like you're talking to a director or producer inside your film agency. You're collaborating with it. So for who am I, I'll simply set it as creative producer. Then for what should I know about you? You can answer if you want, or you can leave it as it is. In my case, I'll just continue. After pressing enter, it starts creating the agent. Now we can see it has processed what we said and started asking more questions. It wants details like duration, maybe 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. Again, what you're doing here is directing and collaborating with the AI. It gives ideas, asks questions, and you build the project together. So I'll tell it I want a 1-minute film. Then I'll also let it know that I'll attach both the script and the director's brief. Again, notice what's happening here. I'm not writing some complicated prompt structure. I'm simply chatting with it naturally. After processing that response, it asks me to upload the documents. I'll upload the script first and then the director's brief. Then I'll simply tell it these are the documents and send them over. Now, one thing you should pay attention to is what happens next. The creative producer starts processing the files and thinking through the information you just gave it. For the script, you can use any script you want for your own AI film. In my own script, I have the dialogue, the audio, the visuals, and every other detail included. Then, for the director's brief, this is where a lot of the direction comes from. The director's brief contains the visual language guide for the film. So things like color direction, camera settings, focal lengths, camera angles, color tone, atmosphere, mood, visual style, lighting, composition, movement, and everything needed for the film. Basically, you're communicating your vision to the AI. Think of it like being an executive producer giving instructions to a producer or director during a film production process. That's what the director's brief is doing here. I always recommend using it because it helps a lot with giving direction to the project. Now the files have finished processing and we have a result. The agent starts asking a few more questions, including where this project lives, which basically means the aspect ratio you want for your film. I'll just say I want a 16:9 horizontal aspect ratio. Then I'll continue by asking it to generate the character Bible. I'll say I want a 16:9 aspect ratio and then tell it to generate the character Bible because I want descriptions of the characters before creating any reference sheets. I'll send that and allow the agent to process everything. Now while it's processing, notice what's happening in the background. is going back to the script and the style guide we uploaded earlier. It's reading through those documents and building the characters from that information. Basically, it's using those two documents as direction for the character Bible. Now the agent has generated the character Bible and we have the images ready. It generated a 1-2 panel character grid. But I want to push this a bit further. Instead of relying only on the character Bible, I want to create a character reference sheet that the AI can continue using as context throughout the project. So I'll tell it to generate character reference sheets for all characters. And here you can also specify the model you want. I'll tell it to backtest two models, GPT Image 2 and Nano Banana Pro, so I can compare both results and choose the one I prefer. I want both models generating results because I want options. I'll send that and it starts working. While this agent is working, I also want to work on locations. And this is where something really interesting starts happening. For locations, I can create an entirely new agent. I'll call this one Location Director. The role of this new agent is simply to handle locations for each scene. Now, one cool thing here is that the new agent automatically pulls context from the context board we already built. So it already understands information from the project we've been working on. I'll lock in the aspect ratio again and tell it to generate a reference sheet for each location in the film. Then I'll send it. Now we have two agents working at the same time. You can actually see both of them thinking and pulling information from the same context tab. That's one feature I really like here. You can open multiple agents and have them work sequentially across different parts of the project while keeping the same overall direction. Now the creative producer is still working, so let's jump back over to the location director. As you can see, this agent has already finished and generated the location reference sheet, and it actually looks very good. I'll use that and go back to the creative producer while waiting for it to finish. Now this one is also done and we have our character images ready. At this stage, I want to compare the results before moving forward because I want the strongest character reference possible before going into storyboarding. After comparing the characters, I ended up liking the GPT Image 2 result more, so I'm going with that version. Now, another thing you can do here is generate the voiceover for the film. But for now, I'm going to continue directly into storyboarding. So I'll simply say continue to storyboard. We want the storyboard generated because this will be used later for video generation. Now, while it processes that, one thing I want you to notice is that the music preference still hasn't been confirmed. We'll come back to that later. The interesting thing here is that everything being generated continues to use the context we've been building throughout the project. If you open the context tab, you see things like the project description, audience, goals, rules, camera lenses, angle framing, atmosphere, visual language, and key references for characters and locations. Everything is being stored there. And this becomes important because it helps maintain character consistency, location continuity, and scene continuity throughout your AI filmmaking process. Now the storyboard has finished generating and the results actually look great. We have the storyboard itself and we also have the prompts used to create it. So if you want to copy or work around those prompts later, you can do that as well. But now I want to show you something else. I want to change one of the characters because this demonstrates something I found really interesting while using the tool. Instead of generating the video immediately, let's say I want Ethan to become a Black American character. So I'll simply tell it that I want to change Ethan to a Black American, and that's it. Now I want to show you what happens next because this is where context becomes really important. After sending that request, Agent One starts processing and thinking through everything we've already built. It goes through the existing context, checks the environment reference sheets, looks at the character information, and starts rebuilding the character based on the updated direction. And what's interesting is that this doesn't only affect the character itself. It starts affecting everything connected to that character, from the reference sheets to the storyboard. So you don't have to manually regenerate every single thing one by one. That part was actually very nice to see. As you can see here, the character starts updating, and then the storyboard becomes outdated and begins updating as well. Now with the new version of the character, it rebuilds the character sheets and creates an updated storyboard around that new context. So the context itself is being updated and carried through the entire project. Now the regenerated character sheet is ready. You can immediately see the changes across the shots. Ethan is now appearing as the updated Black American character. And this goes back to something I mentioned earlier. I didn't have to create some detailed prompt explaining every change individually. I simply gave a rough direction. I just said I wanted to regenerate that particular character and it rebuilt everything around it. Now the storyboard is also regenerating using the updated character. And with a single instruction, I was able to control every connected element across the film. That was one of the things I liked while testing this workflow. Now there's another thing I noticed. This particular agent already understands that the project still needs things like voiceover and music. It had been asking me about those earlier, but I kept skipping those questions. Then I noticed something interesting. It started suggesting that since I kept avoiding it, it might eventually start handling those tasks itself. That's one of the things I found interesting here. It understands the filmmaking process and recognizes pieces that are still missing. In other words, it isn't only responding to prompts, it's working with the context you've already been building. So at this point, I'll just say continue because I'm ready to move forward with the workflow. And what happens next is that the agent starts preparing everything for the next stage of production, which is video generation. One thing you notice here is that it gives you control over how this part is handled. You can choose whether it should always generate automatically, ask before generating video, or only generate when you approve it. In my case, I switch it to ask before generating video because video generation is usually the part that consumes the most resources. So I want to stay intentional about what gets created. Then I continue. Once I approve that, the agent confirms that the storyboard has been accepted and it continues working. At this stage, everything is now flowing through the system. The characters, the locations, the storyboard, and all the contextual decisions we've made so far. And now it moves into the actual video generation phase using Sedans 2. So instead of me manually building each scene or rewriting prompts, the system is now using all the structured context we've built throughout the project to generate the final output. After that, you can preview the result and then export your video.
I've been talking to an AI about my love life for 6 months, 43 conversations, and it keeps saying the same thing. Then there's him, the guy who's been sitting across from me every Tuesday for 3 weeks. I've never said a word. And then he looked up. Turns out we'd both been asking the wrong questions.
And that's basically the full workflow of how I created an AI film using Agent One. From just a simple idea at the beginning, we built a full production pipeline step by step with characters, locations, storyboard, and even adjustments that updated everything automatically through context. If you want to access the tool, you can check the link in the description. And if you followed along this far, you already understand the key idea here. You're not just prompting an AI anymore. You're directing a system that remembers, adapts, and builds your film with you. That's it for this video.